Guys, welcome back to part 11 of the TBR Diaries. For those just joining, this is a little, I don't even know if we can call it a mini series anymore. At this point, it's just full blown seasons. Um, but yeah, so my physical TBR has gotten ridiculous and out of control. And I really should stop buying books, but I'm really not. No, it's not going to happen. So, in an attempt to organize all of them, I thought that I would share with you as I went through the books and just talk about them 2, 3, 4 books at a time. Um, and here we are on part 11. Uh, so, for a quick reminder, this is what my physical TBR currently looks like. Also, keep in mind it does extend around the corner there to a second bookcase that is almost completely full as well. Um, so we started at the top and we're working from the top shelf down and then within each shelf from left to right. And so we are just over halfway through the second shelf. And there's a few books that I want to talk to you about today. So let's jump into this. The first book that I want to talk about is Touching Spirit Bear by Ben Michelson. Um, yeah, so this is a story about a 15-year-old named Cole Matthews. Yeah, Cole Matthews. And he's a troubled young man and he's been stealing and fighting for years. But his latest trouble comes when he smashes another kid's head into the sidewalk. Um, so that's a pretty serious thing. He's going to get in a lot of trouble. Um, but as his punishment, he has to choose between going to prison or he can choose an alternative method of punishment that is inspired by Native American culture, and that is the Native American circle justice. So basically, he can either spend a year in prison or he can spend a year in isolation with, under the terms of this Native American circle justice. He chooses the circle justice and he is then banished to a remote Alaskan island where he ends up being mauled by a mysterious white bear and he almost dies. So that's kind of the synopsis of this story. I got introduced to this book by one of my friends, my best friend actually, by one of her children. So she is in middle school and this was an assigned reading for them. And now this daughter of my best friend is not a big reader. Reading's just not really her thing, and that's fine. It's not for everybody. But there was something about this book that really spoke to her. And she really had a connection with it and she was talking to me about it. And so I have never read this book. I'd never heard of it. And so just to better understand maybe some of where she's coming from, I wanted to read this book since it's one that made such an impression on her. So this one, I want to try to get to this one before May. That way, because I'm going back out to visit my best friend. Her oldest daughter is graduating from high school. And so I want to read this before I go back out there so that maybe I can chat with the younger daughter about it since the last time I was there. So, yeah. So that's the first book, Touching Spirit Bear. All right. The second book I want to talk about is You'd Look Better as a Ghost. And this is by Joanna Wallace. And I don't really know what this one's about, so I'm just going to kind of read you the short synopsis on the back. But it says, I have a gift. I see people as ghosts before they die. Of course, it helps that I'm the one killing them. So the night after her father's funeral, Claire meets Lucas in a bar. Lucas doesn't know it, but it's not a chance meeting. One thoughtless, mistyped email has put him in the crosshairs of an extremely annoyed serial killer. But even before Claire takes him home and carves him up into little pieces, something about that night is very wrong because someone is watching Claire, someone who is about to discover her murderous little hobby. The thing is, it's not sensible to tangle with a part time serial killer, even one who is distracted by attending a weekly bereavement support group and trying to get her art career off the ground. Will Claire finish off her blackmailer before her pursuer reveals all? Let the games begin. So it sounds like we have a part time serial killer that's being stalked by somebody else. Um, Sounds like a funny little story. So yeah, that's why I picked it up. Sounds good. Don't know why I haven't read it yet. Probably because I feel like this one, maybe I have to be in the mood for it. It seems like it's going to be along the lines of like a Lights Out or like a Butcher and Blackbird type thing. I don't know. Serial killer romances seem to be popular right now. So maybe that's, I don't know if this falls in the romance category or not, but anyway, that's the other book on my ever growing TBR. And then the last one that I want to talk about in this episode is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. Um, so this one is kind of a historical fiction. I'm pretty sure it's not a romance, but it deals with PTSD and like the Vietnam War. Um, but this was one that I think was recommended to me when I was looking for books that were going to make me ugly cry, and got a lot of Kristen Hanna recommendations on that post. And this was one of them. And anytime there's a war story or somebody's dealing with PTSD, I tend to put it off because I am a combat veteran with PTSD, and so I don't want to connect too much with the stories and have it trigger something. But so I tend to, I don't want to say I tend to shy away from them, but because I do have every intention of reading this, I just, they're not my first pick, and I really have to be in the mindset for a book that's going to deal with any kind of military trauma. But yeah, so these are the next three books on the second shelf of my physical TBR. Let me know if you've read any of them, what you think. I'm especially interested if you've read the serial killer one. You'd look better as a ghost, because that one sounds really cute and interesting. But yeah, let me know down in the comments.